Many times I've finished a just amazing book and afterwards was surprised to find that no one was talking about it. I'm sure many of you have had the same experience. So today I want to start a series where I try to bring to your attention some forgotten gems that I think I deserve a bit more attention, and I in the hope that we don't forget some of the older greats in lieu of all the new releases. Not that new books are great, but some of the old ones are pretty good too, and sometimes they just had bad marketing and no one paid attention to them. That's just a shame. So I want to try to give the books a fair share in the limelight. Today we're going to start at the very beginning with possibly one of the first fantasy books ever written, and that is Beowulf. Now, Beowulf is an ancient Nordic Anglo-Saxon, the up north era Norse epic that was written around 1000 AD. It was originally written in Old English, which none of us can read today. Well, we can technically read it. This book has a side-by-side of the Old Norse over here and the English over here, except no one can comprehend lines like Sprek od idiskilinga. The English language has changed a lot over the years. So we have to get translations. This book here was translated by Seamus Heaney, and I really like this translation. It tries to move over some of the ancient poetic terms, things like alliteration, and it's really easy to read. And another good translation is actually J.R. Tolkien's. He translated Beowulf, and his copy isn't like in poetry lines as it was originally written, but I've read both, and Tolkien's is pretty good. So the saga of Beowulf is about the man Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, and his many adventures, starting with him sailing to help the Danes from the evil monster Grendel and going on through his life till, spoilers, he dies at the end. That's how a lot of, at least quite a few heroic sagas I've read end with the guy dying. And nowadays people really don't like stories with the main character dies, but it was just a different time back then. Talking about back then, when you think of Beowulf and other classics like that, you'd expect like high flowery things that people read while listening to Beethoven, and they sit and like take sips of their fine decanted brandy. Actually, if you take a look at it, a lot of the stuff wasn't meant to be highbrow. The stories were written for normal people. I like to think that things like Beowulf were just ancient action movies, because you read it, it's really action based and really fun to read. So Beowulf is a poem, and in the lines of inspirational poetry, you can see this not only in the Nordic, but also Homer's works in ancient Greece. The Iliad and the Odyssey were also supposed to be inspirational poetry, where they take these stock phrases and alter them to fit with the story. Another hallmark of the ancient Nordic poetry are kinnings, which are it's slightly confusing, but it's a poetic way to say a word without actually saying a word, like a poetic synonym. For example, instead of saying sword, the scop, or whoever wrote this, we don't know who wrote Beowulf, the author would say battle torch, or just there's funny peculiar turns of phrases which you'll understand what they're saying, but it's just like, huh, that's interesting. Like, at one point when Beowulf starts talking, it says that he's unlocking his word hoard. So why should you read Beowulf? The simple fact is, I found reading it is very, very enjoyable. It's not the easiest to read. I would definitely say this is a level of, once you can read the Lord of the Rings comfortably, this would be a place that you could then start reading good translations of the Beowulf, and it is a bit hard, but it's really fun and it's fascinating to see what it was like back then for them and what kind of things they enjoyed. Another point is Beowulf is actually very influential to the fantasy genre. Tolkien was a huge fan of Beowulf. As I said before, he translated it. Also, he took inspiration from the setting of Beowulf and other Nordic works for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Actually, one of the mini thoughts for The Hobbit was Beowulf, the dragon fight from Beowulf, which is Beowulf's final battle, but from the thief's perspective. Beowulf's last enemy is a great dragon who is awoken when a thief sneaks through a secret door into his lair and steals a cup. Sounds familiar? That's exactly what's in The Hobbit. Well, I hope I could convince you to read this ancient prototype of the fantasy genre. If you have read it, I'd like to know what you all have thought of it. Do you think it was important in the fantasy genre? I would like to read other books that are in like a more Beowulf Hobbit-esque setting. And if you have any recommendations, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.